Hey everybody, so thanks for tuning in to this video. It's going to be a little bit different compared to what I'm normally doing on this channel. So what I wanted to do is just document this training program that I'm going to be doing. It's something that I'm trying out that's relatively new for me, which is I'm going to be trying out something called Emerging Strategies, which is a type of training framework that was popularized by Mike Tushirer. I don't know if he came up with it, but he at least popularized it. And what it is you're essentially repeating the same workouts as far as the sets and reps go each week with weight fluctuations, meaning weights can go up if performance is increased and weights can go down if performance has decreased. And the way you judge that is through top sets. So say you're trying to hit a top set at a heavy weight at about an 8 out of 10 effort. If that same weight the next week feels like a 7 out of 10 effort, then you can probably bump up the weights because you've gotten stronger. If on the other hand, the following week that same weight feels like a 9 out of 10 effort, then you're probably going to want to drop the weights a little bit to keep it within a reasonable range so you're not always redlining on the intensity every single week. And my main reason why I wanted to try this out is because usually for me, on my squat in particular, if I keep the weights relatively moderate and I work on volume, my squat tends to fare very well. But when I start to incorporate heavier work in like triples and singles, it starts to really kind of wear on me and fall apart, meaning I actually get regression in strength compared to when I'm usually doing like sets of 4 to 6. So the reason why I wanted to try this out now is because Newfoundland's currently in a lockdown situation again. We have the variant of COVID. I think it's like the British variant or the European one. And so we're on lockdown again. And because we're on lockdown, there's going to be no competitions coming up in the near future, which gives me time to kind of experiment with training a little bit and try and figure it out. So I figure, why not now? So basically my experiment is going to be, I'm going to run that program that I just talked about as many weeks as I can in a row, as long as performance is increasing or decreasing is fine. I'm going to cut it off and deload and switch it up when I have 2 consecutive weeks of performance decreases. But until then, I'm going to keep running the same program, which should be pretty different compared to what I normally do. For training normally for me, I usually do it in block periodization. So every 4 weeks, I would change program up a little bit. And I would divide it into like a volume phase and then an intensity phase, which is pretty common. Usually that looks like 3 training weeks followed by 1 week of deload before transitioning into that second cycle. But with this, I'm just going to be repeating it every week. And I'm curious to see whether I can push the amount of time that I spend on this kind of program for like more than 4 weeks. So my goal here is to just keep it going as long as I don't hit those 2 straight weeks in a row of performance decreases, whether that's 4 weeks, 5 weeks, or even up to 10 weeks or even more, who knows. So it's going to be a bit of an experiment, and I'm going to be recording every session and putting it on YouTube in kind of like a training log format like this. I'm going to be talking about other stuff too, as well as just showing my training. I'm going to be talking about like some thoughts that I have around training or just rehab or pain or basically whatever comes to mind in kind of like a vlog style, like I was saying. And one thing that I was thinking of in this workout here is since I have time to work on stuff training-wise, I figured it would also be a good time to work on my squat because, like I mentioned, when I start training relatively heavy for a period of time on squat specifically, I have a really, really bad habit of just falling forward and just letting my upper back and lower back do all the work, and it turns into a squat morning pattern. And for anyone who has never heard that before, it's like a squat and a good morning put together. And it's not very efficient. It doesn't look the greatest, although I don't really care about what my squat looks like aesthetically. But it really hampers my ability to handle heavier weights consistently. So what I did was I took about 30 to 40% off of my working sets that I would normally do, and I'm just working on building that efficiency in this new pattern, which is the only thing I'm focusing on right now is just staying mid-foot and not caring what my body does to keep it there. And there is a little bit of like leaning forward that's going to happen for me, but honestly that's just how I'm built. The point is to not let it get excessive like it normally does when things get heavier. So I'm going to be training at relatively similar intensities to this, again, going up with performance increases and going down with performance decreases, but overall just focusing on form. And which brings me to my next point. I think it's really valuable for a lot of people who try to work on form or technique or just being more efficient in a movement to not deload all the way back to the bar and work their way back up. If you're someone whose 1 rep max is like 300 pounds, your normal working sets are probably around like 225, 245, somewhere around there. For someone to go all the way back to the bar and try and retrain the movement and then choose to work up after that, it usually doesn't impact your heavier weight sets at all. One of the best things to do in that case, if you want to get more efficient, is to deload maybe like 20, 30, maybe even 40% of your weight that you would normally hit, and then train that and start going up. It doesn't need to be super light for you to work on form. You can work on form and get stronger at the same time. And in fact, by deloading all the way back to the bar, it's likely you're just detraining yourself, and that'll lead to a lot of frustration and not wanting to do the movement anymore because you feel like you're not making any progress. When in fact, you can keep the weight relatively heavier and still work on form and still build yourself back up. And usually that leads to better results. Anyways, I'm just going to let the rest of the footage play out, but thanks guys for watching, and I hope you just stay with me on the journey that I'm on right now with training.